If you direct your eyes to the top of the screen and observe the team lineups, you'll notice that this game does not have any destroyers in it. I think a lot of times when battleship players load into games like this and they see no destroyers, they feel a moment of celebration. Oh yes, now they can push without having to worry about any torpedo threats. And sure, that's true, but usually when I load into a game like this and I see this kind of team lineup, I immediately get a little bit disappointed. If you ever watch me stream and we get into one of these games, you'll hear me say it. The reason for that is because without destroyers, the battleships and the cruisers on each team are forced to do what I call spotting with their faces. And that's not always ideal, even in battleships, because there's a lot of cruisers on both teams. And if you're a battleship and you've got to push in and spot with your face, it means you're going to get spotted in return by the cruisers. And any that post up behind any of these islands and start showering you with high explosive, they can melt you down pretty quickly. You really want there to be destroyers in order to get vision of the enemy team without having to do it yourself. That's sort of the thing about battleships. They're capable of dev striking other ships across the map, but they have to rely on their teammates to do their spotting for them. The Lepanto, on the other hand, Tier VIII Tech Tree Italian battleship, is well suited to this kind of matchmaking because even if it does have to spot with its face, it gets 3 charges of the exhaust smoke consumable, so it can disengage, it can go concealed at a moment's notice, and so therefore I don't feel all that hesitant to just drive it straight into this alpha cap. I've got my team following me, we've spotted a Montana and another cruiser out there, I think in Alaska, and then there is a Worcester over there in Bravo. We citadel the Montana with our first shot, which is quite lucky. The Lepanto's main guns are, well, you couldn't accuse them of being super accurate. There's the Des Moines in front of us. He's taking some punishment from our team, and the Worcester starts shooting at us from inside the Bravo cap. I don't know if we actually noticed him up until this point. But you see, if this guy is going to farm us, he's going to take quite a lot of our HP, and he's going to keep resetting the cap. We could shoot at him in return. He is giving us flat broadside, and we might get some effective things to happen if we do that, but we also might get absolutely nothing. So instead, I decide to deploy the smoke screen and take the cap. Worcester is able to reset us a little bit, but we should be able to secure this cap before he can shoot again. There he is broadside now, and since we're 3 seconds away from taking the cap, now I'll go ahead and shoot, because if he shoots back and he hits me now, he can't reset me. We get another lucky roll of the dice with that salvo and land 3 citadels on the Worcester, nearly sinking him, but not quite. That's fine. We know at this point he's basically crippled, and we also know we've got a Montana somewhere straight in front of us. So we're going to try to put this island between ourselves and the Worcester. That way he can't melt us with his HE spam, and I assume one of my teammates will be able to dispatch him. But for now, we'll set our sights on the Montana. He was broadside to us in the beginning. He's broadside to us again. We'll see if we can't recreate the citadel we scored on him with the first salvo. And the answer to that is no, although it looks like one of our teammates does. Our secondaries now begin to fire, and the secondaries on the Lepanto are kind of cracked, especially if you use the Epic module. You can see I've got the Epic secondary reload module up, and I've already procced it twice, meaning my secondaries are going to reload a lot faster and do even more damage. They are, of course, sap secondaries, so that means they don't necessarily care about angles as much as armor piercing does. Although, if they're shooting at a bow-in or stern-in target, the damage does tend to fall off a little bit. They're still going to need to hit the superstructure, but at this kind of range, they are hitting the Monty superstructure, and you can see a lot of them are doing fairly significant damage. Ibuki pops up. He's 11 kilometers away from us, and immediately I'm nervous because he's an IJN cruiser, and I know he's got long-range torpedoes. I don't know what the range on the Ibuki torpedoes actually is, but we want to be mindful of the fact that torpedoes could be coming in our way. We were waiting for the Montana to go down before we turned away, but we do want to turn away just in case those torpedoes are incoming. Somehow the Wooster is still alive. I had expected my teammates to take him down, but you know what they say, if you want something done right, you've got to do it yourself. Or, maybe not. Maybe they don't say that, because the Wooster does get taken down by our teammates. We just had to be heading in that direction, I suppose. Take note of the map, though, and look behind me. My teammates are in pursuit of that Ibuki, who is kiting away to the back of the map at full HP. This is not a good use of time, given the enemy has 2 out of 3 of the caps. One of our cruisers is inside Bravo trying to take that, but we need to support him. The Ibuki kiting away to the back of the map where no objective exists is not a valuable target. And we certainly shouldn't be sending 3 ships, 2 battleships and 2 cruisers to chase it and deal with it. Kiting cruisers are useless to the team unless our team follows the kiting cruiser and takes themselves out of the battle. So I'm going to ask them to please not do that. I'm going to ping the map here with these 2 ships, and then I'm just going to use the chat wheel and say negative. Hopefully that gives them the message like, hey guys, you're following a kiting cruiser. Maybe don't do that if you want to win. Even though we are ahead of the enemy on kills, they've only sunk 2 of ours while we've sunk 4 of theirs. We could still very easily lose this game if this Alaska and me get overwhelmed over here near the Bravo cap. And you can see that the enemy team on this side of the map is chasing I actually can't tell if that's a battleship or a cruiser on the edge of the map there toward the bottom. The blue one on our team, I think it's a battleship. In any case, they're pursuing him out of the Charlie cap. And to my teammates' credit, after I pinged the map, they all seem to realize that their efforts in chasing a kiting cruiser maybe weren't the best thing they could be doing with their ship, and 3 out of 4 of them have turned away. The final battleship is still in pursuit, which maybe not ideal, and Ibuki could theoretically burn down a battleship, but, if he sinks it, good for him. At least it's just 1 battleship now in pursuit of that cruiser. And in other good news, my team has managed to flip the Bravo cap, and at the same time, the Schlieffen, the Montana, and the other 2 cruisers on the enemy team are all in the same exact place on the map, meaning we really only have to angle toward one part of the map in order to mitigate damage they send downrange at us. You want to spread out your ships, not put them all in one spot like this. Furthermore, there's a series of islands separating us from them, which means we can conceal our approach. This is good for brawling battleships like the Lepanto. It is heavily armored, to be sure, but you can't take sustained focus fire from 4 different ships and survive in the Lepanto or any other ship. It becomes easier to do that when it's impossible to take sustained focus fire because there's an island blocking the enemy's line of sight. Plus, we have our rolling smokescreen generator, which we're going to deploy now because, again, we don't want to push into superior numbers, even in something like the Lepanto. This is just a matter of simple arithmetic. You count on the screen, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 red ships, there's 1 of me. If I push straight into these red ships, especially something like the Schlieffen, which has torpedoes, I'm probably going to get focused by 4 of them and then sink, so I'm not going to push straight into them. Instead, with my smokescreen deployed and my position mostly concealed, I'm going to turn and get into sort of a kiting situation. I want to be mindful of this island here because I don't want to run into it while I'm getting shot at by these battleships. The secondaries are beginning to work on the Schlieffen, and he is probably wondering whether he maybe should have taken out this ship if he wanted some secondary action, because these things are crazy. Just look at them broadside against battleships. They absolutely shred, even on things like Schlieffen. We're up to 144,000 damage done now, and we are spotted, so we're expecting to get focused, and we are being focused by the Schlieffen secondaries. Well, not anymore. We get the close quarters expert as we take him down, and we let our secondaries continue to talk on the Montana, but the Montana is getting shot at by the rest of our teammates as well, and the Alaska and the other cruiser up here look like, well, they haven't been given enough love, so we're gonna extend our attention to them as the Montana goes down. We get what is a very disappointing salvo from the main guns, something to expect from the Lepanto and the Italian tech tree battleship line. The guns simply are not accurate, but sometimes, sometimes you can get them reloaded, you can take aim once more, and the cruiser has decided you're not that much of a threat. So it's still going to give you a broadside, and, where once you don't succeed, try again. Although before we do try again, we're going to turn in toward these cruisers, because they're the last two things left, and we don't really care if they farm us down with their HE. This salvo on the Alaska, though, absolutely wonderful. 2 citadels, we get the high caliber medal, and we're up to 191,000 damage done. The game is essentially wrapped up now, I think thanks in no small part to my push in the Lepanto, a push that only this ship or an Italian battleship with a smokescreen would really be capable of making. Imagine for a second if we had done the same thing with, say, a Schlieffen, or something less suited to making a push, like the Montana. We probably would have been focused down by HE spam and melted very quickly, and we wouldn't have had an option to disengage without the smokescreen. But with an Italian battleship like this, you can push in a lot easier, and you can utilize the concealment provided by the smokescreen, which is something important if you're going to push, because HE spam will take you down unless the cruisers can't see you. And that's where the smokescreen comes in. So, Lepanto, a fun ship as ever. I hope you enjoyed the video. If so, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.